Like loading. Hey
There you
everyone,
go.
welcome back to She Blurs podcast. Today's guest is Mark Herschberg. Did I pronounce that right?
You did.
Okay. Thank you for coming on my show today.
Thanks for having me. It's a pleasure to be here with you and your listeners.
So can you tell our listeners a little bit about yourself?
Sure. I graduated from MIT back in the 90s during dot-com era. I began as a software developer. I knew I wanted to become a CTO, a chief technology officer, to run all the engineers. And I realized to do that, it required a bunch of skills I didn't have. Leadership, communication, networking, negotiations. They never taught me any of this in school. So I had to develop it in myself, and I had to develop in the people I was managing. Around the same time, feedback at MIT and other universities said, this is a bigger problem. All the companies want to hire people with these skills, but they're not being taught. So I helped MIT to start a program where I've been teaching for the past 20 years, teaching all these great career skills to our students. And now I've put into the book, the Career Toolkit, Essential Skills for Success That No One Taught You, which will help everyone to develop these skills and get more happy and successful careers.
That's amazing. So that's what inspired you to write your book?
It did, from struggling on my own, seeing how other people struggled. And as I say to my students every year, I want you to avoid some of the pitfalls I had to take.
Oh man, like I'm 33 already and I'm like failing. I'm trying to build up my career, but it's slowly working. So hopefully with speaking to you, it can get on the right track.
And all of us can keep getting better. I'm not perfect at all these skills. I'm just better than I was before, and you'll be better than you are tomorrow.
Yes, hopefully. So, I wanted to ask you, what do you want your readers to gain from your book?
Great question. When they read the book, I hope they come out of it by saying, I now understand to get this job I want 5, 10, 15 years down the road, it's
Mhm.
not just a wish. I know how to create a plan with specific steps and execute on it, and also how to develop these skills, the communication and leadership and other skills, so that they don't just say, well, I hope one day to become a leader. No, here's how you can learn and become a leader today and get those jobs in the future.
Yes, that's amazing. I'm definitely going to check your book out. That's what I'm aiming for. Hopefully my listeners are aiming for that too.
And there's also a free app that goes along with the book. And that's
Right?
going to help you retain more of the book, but also if you just want to check it out. So if you go to my website, and I see the URL on the bottom,
Yeah.
thecareertoolkitbook.com, if you
Mhm.
go to the app page, there are links to the Apple and Android stores, and it's a free download. And what it does, it takes some of the great tips from the book, and each day just pops one up on your phone. You look at, swipe it away, and go, right, that was a good reminder. And that's going to help reinforce what you read in the book.
Oh, okay. That's neat. I did see the app on your phone. I mean not on your phone, on your website. I'm going to definitely check that out.
More
Um
books need to have this to help us
oh,
retain it.
I agree. I agree. So what are the main focuses of your book?
The first section on careers, section 1, how to create a career plan. Section 2, how to work effectively, managing your manager, understanding corporate politics and fitting into the workplace. Section 3, interviewing, both understanding as a candidate and as a hiring manager.
Mhm.
Second section, leadership and management. And we look at both the people and process of management. And a key thing here, so many people think, well, leadership, that's when I get this really high title. No. Leadership and management skills apply to all of us from day one. We're going to teach you the skills so you can stand out as a leader, not in title, but in action. And you're seen as a leader, and that's going to help you accelerate your career. And then the final section, fundamental skills, communication, networking, negotiations, and ethics.
That's amazing. I feel like every job should have your book and especially like managers and supervisors and team leaders. They really need to learn how to communicate with people who are working for them because I feel like that's a lot of the reasons why a lot of their employees leave the company because of how they're treating them, how they speak to them, and things like that.
Very true. And you are right. I've seen this over and over. Learning how to more effectively communicate helps us work with our peers, helps us work up to our managers communicate down to us. Learning skills like what motivates people and how to engage your employees, very important for managers. Although even those of us who aren't managers, learning how to motivate my coworker, because when we have to do a project together, if she's not motivated, oh, great, this is gonna suck. But if I can help engage her with the work and figure out how she will be excited to do it, we're gonna have a better partnership and we're gonna get it done faster.
Exactly. I agree. So we talked earlier about learning to negotiate. Like, could you walk us through that? Like, what do you mean by learning to negotiate?
Negotiation is one of those skills, we've heard of it, but we've never had training. So let's think for a moment. Imagine you're 30 years old, you have a job offer for $50,000, but you've learned to negotiate. You read a great book on negotiation. So you go in and you go negotiate and get $1,000 more, 50 to 51,000. Okay, that's doable, right? You're not doubling the amount. What happens if you spend the next 30 years sitting in that one job? You just got $1,000 more for 30 years. You just earned $30,000 with one 5-minute negotiation.
Wow.
But of course, you're not going to stay in that job for 30 years. You'll have other jobs and promotions, and you're going to negotiate more than just $1,000 raise. If you learn to negotiate, you are going to add tens of thousands, possibly hundreds of thousands of dollars to your lifetime income. Now, here's the secret. We can do this with negotiation and say, oh, I saw how I went from 50,000 to 51,000. And it's not about being the best negotiator in the world. It's just getting a little bit better. But if we do this also with our communication, also with our leadership, with our teamwork, with all these other skills, now no one's going to say, oh, you know what? You're a really good leader. Let me make that 51 instead of 50. But they are going to say, you're a good leader. Let's put you on these better projects. Let's fast track you on a promotion. Let's hire you for the next job. All of these skills, not about being a world-class expert, but just about getting a little bit better, will lead to tens of thousands or hundreds of thousands of dollars in additional lifetime earning.
Wow. That's amazing. Like, how does one negotiate though? Like, I have a lot of set skills, and the lady I'm working with at the temp service, she managed to get me 15 cents more. I don't know how she did it, but how do you negotiate to get more money?
Great question.
That work.
Negotiation in general. So we just talked about why it's important, but how do you actually do it? So many people think, well, I just give a high number, you give a low number, and hopefully we meet in the middle. But that's not an effective negotiation. Here's the key mistake people make. They say, oh, I want 15 cents more. I want $1 more an hour. I want 1,000 more a year. I want. Now, as a manager, I don't care what you want. I want to pay you less.
Right.
So why should I give you more? You want to go in by justifying, right? So I had a friend of mine, she graduated from college, and they said, well, this is the salary we offer to everyone out of college. So that's it. That's the way it works. But she said, okay, I understand. But you know, most students, they went to college at 18, graduated at 22. I actually worked for a couple years before going to college. I have some experience. So this doesn't apply to me. I bring something extra that other folks don't. And that's why I am worth more to you, right? She didn't say, I want. She said, here's why this helps you. And her manager said, okay, good point, and took her in a higher salary. So we think about what the other side wants, and then we align into their needs.
That's amazing. Yeah, definitely. So we spoke earlier about networking too. How do you go about networking?
The mistake most people make is they think, I'm just going to get a bunch of business cards, right? Get all these business cards, add people on LinkedIn.
Yeah.
But adding someone on LinkedIn and saying this person is in your network, that's like swiping right on Tinder and saying this person's now your significant other. Right? That's not how it works. Now, when you swipe right on Tinder, what happens? You say, okay, well, there's some interest. Now let's date. Let's get to know each other. Let's build that relationship. We have to think about our professional relationships the same way. You might meet at an event, a bar, on LinkedIn, but you have to build that relationship. So don't think about just trying to collect contacts, connections, business cards. Think about relationship building. Think about getting to know someone. Because when you need help, whether it's you need an introduction to a potential customer, Or you need someone to help you move a couch. Who are you going to call? The person you met 2 days ago or the person you've known for 2 years? So focus on relationship building.
Oh, okay, okay. I never really thought of that because that's what I was doing. I was buying business cards. But yeah, definitely. I feel like I'm going down the right path with creating friendships with the people I interview. Um, so I definitely agree with you. So how would you go about creating a career plan?
So many people just focus on, well, my next job. Can I get maybe more money, better commute? They're just looking one step at a time. Think a little further down the road. I grew up as a chess player. And of course, when you play chess, you don't just think about your next move. You think about 2 or 3 moves ahead and what your opponent might do. And that's how we need to think. So I'll give you an example. I took a job at Harvard Business School. I helped some professors develop a class there. Now, I could have gotten more money somewhere else, but I thought, working at Harvard Business School, it's not the most money, but I'm going to learn a lot. I literally sat 3 feet from a professor for a year, and he personally tutored me in finance. Most people pay hundreds of thousands of dollars to go there. Like, they're paying me to learn. Now, that was helpful for future jobs because I then had more capability, more knowledge I could bring to it. So what we want to do is not think about our next job, but think a few moves ahead. So think about that job 5, 10 years from now that you might want. And look at the job descriptions, talk to people in that role, read up about it, and think, what do I need to be successful? So when I knew I wanted to be CTO, well, I knew how to write code. Okay, that's certainly useful for a CTO. I didn't know how to hire people. I didn't know how to create a budget. I didn't know how to lead. So there's all these skills I don't yet understand. So I have to create a plan to deal with it. Now, of course, you're not going to try doing it all at once. I said, in this first year, here's what I'm going to focus on. And I had very specific steps, whether reading a book, taking a class, here's how I'm going to develop that. The stuff I was going to do in years 4 and 5, it was just a placeholder. How exactly I was going to do it, I didn't have to worry about that today. I'll worry about that as it comes. So you start from the far future, you backtrack, what are all the things you need? And then you plan out at what point over the next few years are you going to gather that, whether it's through learning or maybe through intermediate jobs that will help develop some of those skills in you and give you the experience to qualify for that future job.
I agree. So what happens if you want to change the job build that you originally planned in your career plan? Do you just change the name or change the details of how you're going to go about it? Like, how does that work?
Really good question. Now, your career plan is not set in stone, right? The great thing is you can change this anytime you want. Sometimes it will change because you decide you want to go in a different direction. Sometimes, of course, you have a plan and something happens, like a global pandemic hits, and all of a sudden it wasn't going exactly as you expected. So one thing we have to do with our plan is constantly readjust. Once a year, maybe even once every 6 months, sit down and say, is this still where I'm trying to go? If not, oh wait, I want to go over here. Okay, readjust the plan, right? It's like if you're driving cross country, you're like, you know what? I don't want to go to San Francisco. I think I want to go to LA instead. Okay, take that detour, 100 miles out and start going a little further south. That's what we're going to do with our plan. So it's okay to revise it. And in fact, talk to people along the way and get input and check in. And sometimes you say, I'm going to learn this in the next year, but it didn't happen. You have to revise your plan. When will you learn that in the future? Maybe you're further along than you thought. So when it changes, just update it, starting from that end goal and then backtracking to get to where you need to go.
Yes. What about those who have difficulty with change? Like, what if they're used to the job they're at, their career field, and they want to change, but they are afraid to do it? Like, how would they go about?
It can be scary if there's a really big change going into a whole new industry or job. By using this process, instead of saying it's going from here to here, let's see if I can get that on the screen, you're saying, well, it's these tiny steps along the way. There's 7 steps, 7 things. I need to learn these 3 things. I need experience doing these 2 things. There's 2 other things in there. So I'm not making this big jump. I'm just going to take 1 step forward. I'm just going to get that 1 extra piece of experience. It becomes a little more manageable when we break it down this way. And of course, we're not in this alone. You can turn to your friends, your coworkers, possibly your boss to help develop these skills to help you on that path.
Yes, I love that. So I want to thank you so much, Mark, for coming on my show today and speaking with me about your book.
Thank you for having me. It's been a pleasure.
You have a great day.
You too. Bye.
Hey, everyone. I want to thank you so much for listening to my interview with Mark today. We spoke about his book, Career Toolkit, Essential Skills for Success That No One Taught You. So I learned quite a bit from this interview. I hope you all learned from this interview too. If you all would like to purchase his book, it is in the link below. It's www.thecareertoolkitbook.com. And on his website, he mentioned that there's an app that you can download and it just motivates you along the way. So I hope you all check out his website, check out his book. If you have any questions, I'm sure there's a way to contact him on his website. I want to thank you all so much for your support and so much for listening to my podcast. You all have a great day.